we're an all the music website, so I can't not ask you about the Arctic Monkeys cover. I'm sorry
No,
you've been
go
I've
for
probably
it.
been asked about it so many times. But while we're on Sheffield, how do you kind of reflect on that? Because you must realize how iconic that album cover is.
Yeah, I think when I agreed to do it, I didn't realize how iconic it had become.
Right.
You know, I thought it'd be like a decently successful album. I didn't know it'd be seen in such light, once in a generation type record.
Yeah.
I look on it with fondness now. I didn't always look on it with fondness because there was so much partying and like mentalness going on when that something like that of that magnitude happens and there's no script for it, everyone just
Mm.
kind of goes along with rides the wave, and then you kind of when it calms down, you're like, oh right, what you kind of a bit like what's happened here? Don't really know who I am and what's
Yeah.
happened, but to be associated with such an amazing record, still it still stands up as a great record.
Yeah.
Amazing, you can't ever take that away from history books now, and
Yeah.
I do believe
Do,
it's 20 years next year, so I'm sure it's going to be mentioned a lot in the next 12 months.
yeah, I'm sure he'll definitely do the rounds again. So, like, could you see what was about to happen? Was there any way of seeing how big that was going to become in terms of the band with that record?
Uh, what freaks me out is how young we all were.
Mm.
I remember, but it goes in like little stages. Like I remember seeing Alex write that batch of songs, and he played them to about six of us in a disused steelworks in Sheffield. And I know
Yeah.
it sounds proper Sheffield, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, wow, these aren't just normal tunes. These are
Mm.
special songs. And then I remember him saying they were supporting the choral at Leadmill. And I remember thinking that blew my mind that they were
Yeah.
supporting
Yeah.
like little things like that. And then it just seemed to a flip. As soon as the songs went online, it just went. It were like an out of control train. But even up to taking the photograph, I don't think I had any sort of comprehension of what were about to happen.
Yeah.
I
Where
probably
did it
wouldn't
come?
say I
Where
had
did
an idea until the day of the release.
Right. Okay. Yeah. In terms of the actual photograph, like, do you remember the conversation around it? Like, do you remember how it came about?
I remember being asked to go, and they wanted some photographs. They wanted some photographs in the inlay because I mean, they can mistake me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it was going to be called A Weekend With originally, and
Right.
it was based around the notion of a weekend of this
Mm.
young guy
Yeah.
and his view of the world. So they wanted some photographs from Friday evening, clocking off work, to Sunday night, reflecting. And
Mm.
we took some in Sheffield around 5 in the morning. It was a summer's morning. And then we went to Liverpool to take some shots. And while I were in Liverpool, the guy asked me, the guy asked me if I would just pose with a cigarette for a
Mm.
portrait photo, but there were no mention of it being a cover.
Yeah.
Um, and then I thought that was job done. And then I got a call off Andy Nicholson, who was bass player at the time.
Yeah.
I said, "Look, we've seen that band have seen this image. They like it. We want it to be authentic, though. Would you be happy for us to pay for you to have a day out,
Mm.
and we can recreate that image?" Um,
Yeah.
so week after I was sent to Liverpool, I were given about 700 quid,
Mm.
and I had three friends with me, and I were told not to come back to this bar until every penny was spent. Um, so you can
Brilliant.
imagine the day I had.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good.
and then I
Can
rolled
you
back in.
remember the day you had? That's the question.
Oh, I rolled back into the venue around half 10, 11, and they were like, I don't know if you're off your head. I remember I essentially had a joint, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Uh, and I were taken downstairs, and by that point, my world had turned upside down, and they were like, get me home. And they
Yeah.
just sat me on this stool and just clicked. There was this Polish lass who were just clicking away.
Yeah.
I woke up in Manchester. My mate woke up in Sheffield. My other mate woke up in Liverpool. Car were in Liverpool. Driver were in Sheffield. It were an absolute like fallout. And they rang me and said, we've got it, and we want it to be front cover." Um, and I was like, wow. I didn't realize just how much, he is
Yeah.
literally close up to my face, and I didn't realize how into. And then Then it kind of went quiet. So artwork, I was like, that's mental. And then it was the day of the release that really bent my head. There
Yeah.
were press outside my mum's house, press outside where I lived. There were,
Mm.
because they didn't really speak to press, so they were going for it. It's
Yeah.
hard to, people have to remember how big it were at the time now. It doesn't,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's massive.
and there were just press everywhere, and there were billboards. I remember someone sending me a picture on Tube or all my, and they were like, "All right, this is," and then they got. I think it was Wednesday afternoon. We got a call. I got a call saying it's fastest selling British album of all time, and it's like, fucking hell, wow.
I bet it must have been like a weird Black Mirror episode for you, like just seeing your face everywhere.
Oh,
And
you
I
just
don't know.
dipped it. You like basically just like dipped into fame for a few months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it's strange because it's probably not, it's probably chilled out a little bit, but I've had a conversation about that record, I reckon, every week since it were out.
Well,
It's just something everyone mentions. And that for a while that did me head in, to be honest. I was like, I can't get away from this, it's doing my nutting.
yeah.
But nah, uh, I'm
You
proud
look
to
back,
be
look
associated
back
with.
more fondly. Yeah. Yeah.